Supreme Lord, eternal truth, let us obey thee alone and live according to truth. परमो च प्रभु सत्यम नित्यतमेव केवलम अनुवर्तामहि सत्यम अनुजीवम केवलम ओम शांति ही शांति ही शांति. Good morning, namaste, Vande Mataram. Welcome all of you. The topic of this morning's discussion will be on object of sadhana. Very interesting topic. It is oft discussed topic. People keep answering questions. People keep on querying and getting answers. The most initial step, the most fundamental question is that the object of sadhana. So it is not that we will say something from our own thought or own mind, but rather we will take the discussion from Sri Aurobindo's writings and what Sri Aurobindo has explained, and from his quotations we will take the object of sadhana. Initially, here in the course, the object of sadhana is opening the consciousness to the divine. Very interesting and a very frank, very free discussion. There is nothing to be aside, nothing to be, hide. The very important point Sri Aurobindo has quoted from the very beginning, first sentence. The object of the sadhana is opening of the consciousness to the divine, and change of the nature. That is the second criteria. Opening of consciousness to the divine and change of the nature. Then Sri Aurobindo quotes about the methods, the ways, the paths. Meditation or contemplation is one of the means to this, but only one means bhakti. Only one means that the meditation and contemplation. Number two is bhakti is another. Work is another. Number three, Chitta Siddhi is preached by the yoga as a fast means towards realization. So these are the methods Sri Aurobindo speaks of: our meditation, opening, meditation and contemplation, bhakti and work. So many ways it has been described by Sri Aurobindo. Chitta Siddhi was preached by the yogins as a fast means towards realization, and they got it by the stillness of the saintliness of the saint and the quietude of the sage. But the transformation of the nature of which we speak is something more than that. Not only we are confined within this Chitta Siddhi, but our thing is, our aim, our motive is transformation. That is something different here in the course of. So already we know where all the yogas and integral yoga begins there, and this transformation does not come by contemplation alone. Work is necessary. Yoga in action is indispensable. As Gita, the stress is there more often on work. Here also we are putting more stress upon the work also. Then Sri Aurobindo quotes again, the growth out of the ordinary mind into the spiritual consciousness. That is the already Sri Aurobindo has quote, which is the object of our sadhana. The growth out of this ordinary mind into the spiritual consciousness can be effected either by meditation, dedicated work, or bhakti for the divine. Already three things Sri Aurobindo has quoted initially. By meditation, dedicated work, or bhakti for the divine. In our yoga, it was there as a universal concept in the ancient ancient traditions, that ancient schools they were actually following the path. But in our yoga, which seeks not only the static bhakti, static peace and absorption, but dynamic spiritual action, work is indispensable. That is, we don't simply rest on the static aspect, we go for the dynamism. For that, work is indispensable. As for the spiritual truth, that is a different matter. In the course here, it depends only on the descent of the divine and action of the supreme force, and not bound by the many kind, any method or any rule. So that descent will be there, to descent of the divine and the action of the supreme force, not bound by any method or any rule. No formal rule, no regulation, nothing is there. But thing is that descent of the divine and the action of the supramental force into this embodied nature, that is the most essential thing. Again, Sri Aurobindo tries to clarify. I have never disputed the truth of the old yogos. So, with bringing this distinction between old and new, other yogos and this integral yoga, their path, their method, their rule. So when differentiating Sri Aurobindo quotes, I have never disputed with this. I have myself, further clarification is that I have myself had the experience of Vaishnava Bhakti and of the Nirvana. I had the experience of this Vaishnava Bhakti and of the Nirvana in the Brahman. That experience I had. I recognize their truth in their own field and for their own purpose. That also I recognize. The truth of their experience so far as it goes, though I am in no way bound to accept the truth of the mental philosophies founded on this, on the experience, on their experience. Similarly, I find that my yoga here concentrates on coming little bit away from this ancient philosophy. In my yoga, it is true in its own field, a larger field as I think. This is totally a separate field and it is larger, it is quite wider, it has got its own purpose, that is something different. As I think, and for its own purpose. The purpose of the world is to get away from the life to the divine. This is the very demarcated line as quoted by Sri Aurobindo, as observed by Sri Aurobindo. The purpose of old yoga is to get away from life to the divine. So obviously, let us drop karma. The karma was dropped. They were simply getting moving away from the life towards the divine. The purpose of the new is to reach the divine. This is the difference between the old and new. The purpose of the new is to reach the divine and bring the fullness of what is gained into life. For that, yoga by works is indispensable. So we accept, we stress upon the work to the utmost. It seems to me that there is no mystery about that or anything so perplexed anybody. Very interesting. It is normal and inevitable. Only you say that the thing is impossible, but that is what is said about the everything before it is done. Thing is that before you say no, say I will try, you come, that opening should be there, that assent to consent must be there, then there will be help of the Divine Mother, and for that they have already come. So again we'll go a little bit ahead, we'll see. This is the Karma Yoga laid down in the Gita as I have developed it for the integral spiritual life. This concept of the Gita concept I have developed it for the integral spiritual life. It is founded not on the speculation and reasoning, not founded on the speculation and reasoning, but on the experience. It does not exclude meditation, certainly it does not exclude the bhakti also, and also for the self-offering to the divine, the consecration to the oneself to the divine, which is the essence of the karma yoga, is essentially a movement of the bhakti. So this karma into bhakti in meditation, I have not excluded anyone, they are interrelated, I have taken one by one of them. Only it does exclude a life-fling exclusive meditation or an emotional bhakti set up in its own inner dream, taken as by the whole movement of the yoga. That I have excluded, solely, entirely the meditation and bhakti. That is only I have excluded. One may have the hours of pure observed meditation or the inner motionless adoration. These are the thing, considering the old aspects. Pure observed meditation, inner motionless adoration and ecstasy, but they are not the whole of this integral yoga. It is there, but it has been changed, reshaped, it is reformulated. That is in a new shape it has come, the concept is totally new. So I have never put a ban on bhakti, and I am not conscious of having banned the meditation either at any time. That I have not done, it is required. I have stressed both bhakti and knowledge in my yoga as well as works, even if I have not given any of them the exclusive importance. It is meditation, it is actually included here, but actually no specific, no exclusive importance is given like Shankara and Chanakya. They have, as they have put this, this I have not put it in there. Then Sri Aurobindo, of course, quotes in a very bold, strong sentence. Sri Aurobindo quotes here: "Strength is all right for the strong. Strength is all right for the strong, but aspiration and grace answering to it are not altogether myths. They are great realities of the spiritual life. So strength, it is there with the strong, but aspiration and grace, that is the great realities of the spiritual life. Again, here in the quotes very interestingly, the including of the other consciousness, outer consciousness in the transformation is the supreme importance in this yoga. What is the main objective? What is the supreme importance during the course? Including of the outer consciousness in the transformation. Outer consciousness in the transformation is of supreme importance in this yoga. Meditation can't do it. Meditation can deal only with the inner being. The outer consciousness into the process of transformation, it requires something else, something has to be done. So work is of primary importance. We stress mostly on the work. Only it must be done with the right attitude and in the right consciousness. Then it is fruitful to any meditation else. So the work again and again here in the courts, everything is there. It has got they have got their importance. We have in that inclusion is there, but thing is that major importance mostly we are stressing upon the work. To keep up work helps it up in the balance between the internal experience and the external development. There are balance between the internal experience and the external development. The work that keeps up the balance. Otherwise, one-sidedness and want of measure and balance may develop. For the proper balance of body, work is necessary, as Mother has quoted. Sri Aurobindo also in equivalent term, in the course, balance between the internal experience and the external development, some work helps the balance. Moreover, it is necessary to keep the sadhana of work for the divine, because in the end, that enables the sadhak to bring out the inner progress into the external nature, inner progress into the external nature and life, and helps integrally of the sadhana. That is the major thing we are doing. So in the again course here, all work done in that spirit can be made a means for the sadhana. All work done in that spirit can be made a means for the sadhana. So the foothold is there always. The foothold is a reliance on the divine, the opening of the being, the will, and energies to the divine and surrender to the divine. This is the most initial requisites for this path and this sadhana. These are the things. Because our object is to only the divine, to know the divine, to discover the divine, to realize the divine, to manifest the divine. So these are the things we are centering around divine. We are moving here and there. So again, here in the course, work can be of two kinds. Very interesting. Work can be of two kinds. The work that is in the field of experience used for the sadhana. The work that is a field of experience in the sadhana for the progressive harmonization and transformation of the being and its activities, number one. For the progressive harmonization and transformation of the being and its activities, second. Work that is realized expression of the divine, that is second. So work, here in the Aj quotes two types. Number one is for the progressive harmonization and transformation of the being and its activities, number one. Number two, work that is the realized expression of the divine. But the time for the latter, second one, can be only when the realization has been fully brought down into the earth's consciousness. Then only the second activity can be done, realized expression of the divine, that will be fruitful. Till then, all work must be done in the field of endeavor and a school of experience. For that, it is there, we have to go and we have to see. Work is itself only a preparation, and so is the meditation by itself. But work done is in the increasing yogi consciousness is a means of realization as much as the meditation is. Both have the same importance. They have to be there. Meditation also prepares for the direct contact with the divine. So if we are there to work only for the preparation and then become motionless, meditation it activates.